No one ever noticed the poor girl who left flowers on a stranger's grave. Not until the day the widower stood there, staring at the flowers she had brought for his late wife. Her name was Lila. She had nothing in this world except a heart that refused to stop caring. Every week, she'd walk miles with a few wilted flowers in her hands, just to place them on a grave that wasn't hers. No one asked her why. No one cared to know. But that day, as she carefully placed the flowers she always left, she was unaware of the pair of eyes watching her from a distance. The eyes of the widower's late wife. He wasn't just any man. Ethan Grant, a billionaire who came to this grave often. And each time he saw the flowers left there for his wife, his heart ached in a way no wealth could ever heal. Lila, the girl with nothing but a kind heart, had no idea that her simple act of leaving flowers would stir memories, regrets, and secrets that had been buried for years. Because in that quiet cemetery, where rain fell softly and petals scattered in the wind, fate was about to bring two lives together, one full of loss, one full of hope, in a way that neither of them could have imagined. Before the story begins, I want to know, where are you watching from? Comment below. The night was colder than usual. The wind howled through the empty streets, and the cemetery lights flickered weakly in the mist. In the distance, a small figure moved quietly between the gravestones. Her name was Lila. She was 12 years old, her shoes torn, her small hands clutching a bunch of wilted flowers she had picked from the roadside. Lila didn't come here to steal. She came to give. Every evening, just before the gates closed, she would sneak in and place those flowers on a grave she didn't even know. But tonight, someone was watching. A tall man stood in the shadows near the old oak tree, his eyes following her every move. His name was Mr. Grant, a widower who had lost his wife 2 years ago. He came here every day, but tonight, someone had beaten him to it. He watched as Lila knelt before his wife's grave, brushing away the dust with her tiny fingers. She placed the flowers gently and whispered something he couldn't hear. When she stood to leave, he stepped forward. "Why are you doing that?" he asked softly. Lila froze. She looked frightened, like a deer caught in headlights. "I'm sorry," she stammered. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted her to have flowers." "Did you know her?" he asked. Lila shook her head. "No, but she looks lonely. I don't have anyone either." Those words hit him harder than he expected. He looked at the small grave marker beside his wife's name. There was a picture of a smiling woman holding a bouquet, the same kind of flowers Lila carried. He didn't know what to say, but he noticed something strange. Her clothes were thin, almost soaked from the evening rain. She looked hungry. "Where do you live, kid?" he asked. She looked away. "Here sometimes." Mr. Grant's chest tightened. The cemetery keeper had mentioned someone sneaking around at night. A ghost girl. He never believed it until now. Lila suddenly turned to run, but her foot slipped on the wet grass. He caught her arm just in time. "Hey, easy," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Please don't tell anyone. They'll take me away again." "Again," he repeated. She nodded slowly. "They said I didn't belong anywhere." He looked at her, a child alone, broken, and terrified, standing in front of the one place he came to escape his own loneliness. For the first time in years, something inside him stirred. He didn't know it yet, but this night would change everything. The next morning, Mr. Grant couldn't stop thinking about her. The way she spoke, the sadness in her eyes, the way she said, "I don't have anyone." He returned to the cemetery, hoping to find her again. But she wasn't there. Only the flowers remained, this time, wrapped in a piece of paper torn from a notebook. He picked it up and read the shaky handwriting. "Dear lady in the picture, I hope you have friends in heaven. My mom went there too. I miss her." Mr. Grant's hand trembled. His throat tightened. The note was short, simple, but it felt like a knife straight to his heart. He sat by his wife's grave for a long time, holding the paper close to his chest. He thought about his wife, about how much she loved children, how she always said, "One day, we'll adopt a little girl." But life never gave them that chance. Until now, maybe fate was giving him another way to keep that promise. That night, he returned again. He brought extra food, a blanket, and waited. The wind howled, but Lila didn't come. Hours passed. Then, just before midnight, he heard a soft sound, a cough, followed by a faint cry. He followed the sound behind the caretaker's shed. There, under a broken roof, lay Lila, shivering with cold, her arms wrapped around a small plastic doll with no head. "Lila," he whispered. Her eyes widened. You came back. He crouched beside her. You can't sleep here. You'll get sick. She shook her head. It's okay. It's quiet here. No one bothers me. He sighed. Come with me. I'll get you something warm to eat. She hesitated. Will you take me to the police? No, he said firmly. Just dinner. That's all. Lila stared at him for a long moment, then slowly nodded. They walked out of the cemetery together, an old man and a little girl, bound by grief neither of them understood yet. Mr. Grant's house smelled of pine wood and old books. He hadn't cooked for anyone since his wife died. But tonight, he boiled soup, toasted bread, and watched Lila eat like she hadn't eaten in days. Do you go to school? He asked. She shook her head. I used to. Before they took my mom away. What happened to her? Lila looked down at her bowl. She got sick. They said she was too weak. I tried to help, but she said she'd come back soon. She didn't. Mr. Grant swallowed hard. And your father? I don't know, she whispered. He left before I was born. Silence filled the room. The clock ticked. Outside, the rain kept falling. You can stay here tonight, he finally said. Just tonight, okay? Lila nodded slowly. Thank you. She curled up on the couch, clutching her doll, and for the first time in months, she slept without fear. Mr. Grant watched her from the doorway, his eyes wet. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing. He couldn't let her go back to that grave alone again. Morning sunlight slipped through the blinds. The smell of breakfast filled the air, eggs, toast, and something sweet Lila hadn't tasted in years. She woke up slowly, blinking at the room around her. For a moment, she forgot where she was. The couch was soft, the blanket warm, and for the first time, she didn't wake to cold wind or silence. Mr. Grant stood by the table, stirring his coffee. Morning, he said with a smile that looked like it had taken effort. Morning, she whispered. I didn't mean to sleep too long. It's all right, he said. You were tired. She sat down quietly. This is really good, she said after her first bite. He chuckled. It's just eggs and bread, kid. But it tastes like home, she murmured. That small sentence stopped him cold. He looked at her, really looked, and something in his heart cracked open again. After breakfast, he asked, Do you have any family left? Lila thought for a long moment. I used to have an aunt, she said. But she moved away after Mom died. She didn't want me. She said I looked too much like her. Mr. Grant frowned. What was your mother's name? Ella, she said softly. Ella Mason. He froze. The name hit him like a lightning strike. Ella Mason. He turned toward the old photo wall beside the dining table, a collection of his wife's pictures, friends, and memories. He picked up one frame from the back, one he hadn't touched in years. His wife, smiling, with her arm around another woman. A woman with the same eyes as Lila. Do you know this woman? He asked, showing her the picture. Lila gasped. That's my mom. How do you have that? The room went silent. Mr. Grant sat slowly, his heart pounding. Your mother. She was my wife's best friend. They worked at the library together. Lila stared at him in disbelief. You knew my mom? He nodded. She was kind. Always laughing. Always talking about you. Tears filled Lila's eyes. I thought no one remembered her anymore. Mr. Grant swallowed the lump in his throat. Oh, I remember her, Lila. Very well. He didn't say what came next. That Ella had been there the day his wife collapsed. The day everything fell apart. Later that evening, Lila sat by the window, watching the rain again. Can I still visit the grave? She asked softly. Of course, he said. It's safe with me. Do you think she's really happy up there? Mr. Grant smiled sadly. If she's anything like your mother, then yes. She's probably smiling every time you bring those flowers. Lila smiled faintly. I bring them because I want her to know she's not forgotten. Nobody should ever be forgotten. He nodded slowly. You're right, Lila. Nobody should. He didn't tell her that her mother's name had been engraved just a few steps from his wife's grave. He'd seen it the day she died, but never looked twice after that. Now, those two names felt like two halves of the same story, a story that wasn't finished. The next few days passed peacefully. Lila stayed with him, helping around the house. She laughed again, filling the rooms with a sound Mr. Grant thought he'd never hear in his home again. But one morning, while cleaning the attic, Lila found an old box labeled Grace, Private. Curiosity got the better of her. She lifted the lid. Inside were letters, photos, and a sealed envelope marked, to be opened if I don't come back. Her heart pounded. She held it for a moment, then placed it down carefully. When Mr. Grant came upstairs, his face turned pale. "Where did you find that?" "In this box," she said. "I didn't open it." He took the envelope, his hands shaking. "It's from my wife. She wrote this the week before she passed. Are you going to read it?" He hesitated. Not yet. But later that night, when Lila had fallen asleep, he sat by the fireplace and opened the letter. It read, "My love, if you're reading this, then it means my time came sooner than I hoped. Don't be angry at fate. Promise me you'll keep your heart open. One day, you'll meet someone who needs you as much as I did. Don't turn her away. She'll have her mother's eyes, and you'll know." Mr. Grant's breath caught. Her mother's eyes. He looked toward the couch where Lila was sleeping, her small face peaceful in the firelight. He realized the letter wasn't a goodbye, it was a prophecy. Days turned into weeks. Lila began going to school again, and her laughter brought warmth to the house. But one afternoon, when Mr. Grant went to pick her up, she wasn't there. The teacher said, "Her aunt came for her. She said you were sick and sent her to pick the girl up." His heart sank. "What aunt?" The teacher showed him the visitor's log, Carla Mason. He hadn't heard that name in years. Ella's sister. He raced home, calling the police, but there was no trace. Lila's bag was gone. The small doll she loved was missing. That night, he sat by his wife's grave, clutching the letter, whispering into the cold air, "I won't lose her too." 2 days later, he received a call. It was a police officer. "Sir, we found a child matching your description. She's at the old train station outside town." Mr. Grant drove like his life depended on it. When he arrived, he saw Lila sitting on the steps, crying. "Lila!" he shouted, running toward her. She looked up, her face bruised, eyes swollen. "She said I was bad," Lila sobbed. "She said I didn't deserve a home." He hugged her tightly. "You do deserve a home. You always have." As he held her, something fell from her pocket. A folded letter, stained with dirt. He picked it up. "What's this?" "She said Mom left it for me," Lila whispered. "But I think she lied." He unfolded it carefully. Inside was a single line written in the same handwriting as his wife's letter. "If you find her, don't let her go. She is the peace I couldn't give you." Mr. Grant's knees went weak. He looked at Lila, trembling. "Who gave you this?" he asked. Lila shook her head. "I don't know. A woman at the grave. She said you'd understand." He felt his heart pound like thunder. "What woman?" "She had the same eyes as my mom," Lila whispered. "She said her name was Grace." Mr. Grant froze. His wife's name. But she had been gone for 2 years. The wind picked up, carrying the faint scent of lilies, the same flowers Lila always brought. He held her close, whispering, "You're safe now. I promise." But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. The rain had not stopped for 2 days. Thunder rolled across the sky as Mr. Grant and Lila sat by the fire, trying to understand what had happened. He turned the letter over and over in his trembling hands. The paper smelled faintly of lilies, though it looked new. "How could this be?" he whispered. "Grace has been gone for years." Lila leaned closer. "Maybe she wanted you to know I was meant to find you." He looked into her eyes, those same eyes the letter had spoken of, and felt something between fear and peace. That night he dreamed of Grace. She stood in the cemetery wearing the same blue dress she had been buried in, her hair floating as if the wind had no weight. She didn't speak. She only placed a hand on his chest and whispered, "Keep her safe. Don't search for proof. Just love her." When he woke, his pillow was wet with tears. The clock read 3 a.m. He went to Lila's room. She was awake, drawing. "What are you making?" he asked softly. "A house," she said. "For you and for her. So you won't be lonely when I go." "Go." He frowned. "You're not going anywhere." She smiled sadly. Sometimes people disappear even when they don't mean to. Morning came gray and heavy. A knock sounded at the door. When Mr. Grant opened it, a woman in a black coat stood there, Carla Mason, Ella's sister. "I'm here for my niece," she said flatly. Lila shrank behind Mr. Grant. He stood tall. "You abandoned her. She nearly died on the streets." Carla crossed her arms. "She's blood. You're not. You have no right to keep her." Before he could answer, a police car pulled up. An officer stepped out with a file in his hand. "Mr. Grant? We need to talk," the officer said quietly. "There's something you should see." At the station, they showed him documents from a social services investigation. Among them was a DNA test taken years ago during a hospital admission for Lila's mother. The officer hesitated. It says here the child's biological father is someone named Grant Harrison. Mr. Grant stared in disbelief. That's my full name. The room spun. He sat down slowly. How is that possible? The officer shook his head. We don't know the details. But according to these records, Ella Mason listed you as the father before she passed. Mr. Grant's heart pounded so loud he could hear nothing else. He remembered nights long ago, dinners with Grace and her best friend Ella, Grace teasing him. If you weren't already married to me, she'd have stolen you. He had laughed it off. But there had been one night, one argument, one mistake born of loneliness and confusion when Grace was away caring for her sick mother. He had buried that memory deep, ashamed. And now, the truth had returned. He went home in silence. Lila was waiting by the window. Did I do something wrong? She asked. He knelt beside her. No, sweetheart. You did everything right. She looked at him with worried eyes. Then why do you look sad? He swallowed hard. Because I just found out something important. What? That you're my daughter. Lila's mouth fell open. That's not possible. He nodded slowly. I didn't know. Your mom never told me. But now I do. And I'm never letting you go again. She began to cry, silent tears running down her cheeks. Then she threw her arms around his neck. I knew, she whispered. I felt it the first time you said my name. Weeks passed. Life started to find its rhythm again. Lila went back to school, this time with clean clothes, warm lunches, and a father waiting for her at the gate. But one evening, as the sunset painted the sky red, Mr. Grant received another letter in the mail. No return address, just his name in familiar handwriting. He opened it carefully. You kept your promise. Now keep mine. Take her to the old library on her birthday. She will find what I left behind. Grace. He stared at the signature, his pulse quickening. On Lila's 13th birthday, they went to the abandoned library. Dust hung in the air like fog. Lila's fingers traced the shelves until she stopped at a small box wedged between two books. Inside was a locket and a note. For Lila, when you wear this, remember that love doesn't end. It simply changes rooms. She opened the locket. Inside were two tiny pictures, her mother on one side, Grace on the other. Mr. Grant covered his mouth as tears filled his eyes. She wanted us to find each other, Lila whispered. Didn't she? He nodded. Yes, she did. That night, they returned to the cemetery. The rain had stopped, and the air smelled of wet grass. Lila placed new flowers on both graves, white lilies and wild daisies. Thank you, she said softly, for bringing us together. Mr. Grant placed his hand on her shoulder. We'll come here every year. Not to mourn, but to remember. A gentle wind brushed past them, warm and sweet. Somewhere among the stones, a single chime rang out, the old windbell Grace had hung years ago. Lila smiled through her tears. Did you hear that? He nodded. She's still watching. As they turned to leave, Lila stopped and looked back one last time. For a second, she thought she saw two figures standing side by side in the mist, Grace and her mother, smiling. She blinked, and they were gone. But the warmth stayed, soft and real. Hand in hand, she and Mr. Grant walked down the path toward home. Neither noticed the small note that the wind carried from Grace's grave. It drifted toward the gate, the words faint but clear. The story isn't over yet. It was past midnight when the wind began to howl again. Lila couldn't sleep. She kept hearing faint tapping against her window, like someone knocking politely. When she opened the curtain, the night was still, except for a single folded paper pressed against the glass. She opened the window and caught it before it blew away. The handwriting was the same as before. Do not let him forget. The truth is buried beneath the lilies. She froze. Her eyes darted to the small vase of lilies by her bedside, the ones she and Mr. Grant had taken from Grace's grave earlier that day. Something glimmered beneath the flowers. Inside the vase, hidden in the stems, was a tiny metal key. At dawn, she ran to Mr. Grant's room. Look, she whispered, holding the key in her palm. It was inside the lilies. Mr. Grant sat up, rubbing his eyes. Where did you? She handed him the note. His face went pale as he read it. The truth is buried beneath the lilies, he murmured. Grace used to call her study the lily room. He hadn't entered that room since the day Grace died. It had remained locked, untouched, a shrine to her memory. Now he took the key from Lila's hand, heart pounding. When the lock turned, a rush of air escaped, stale, heavy with forgotten years. The room was exactly as Grace had left it. A typewriter on the desk, papers stacked neatly, a framed photograph of the three of them, Grace, Ella, and him, smiling at a garden party. But one drawer in the desk was sealed with wax. Lila pointed. Maybe that's what the key is for. Inside the drawer was a bundle of letters tied with a blue ribbon, yellowed by time. Mr. Grant's trembling fingers untied them one by one. The first letter was dated 2 days before Grace's death. My dearest Grant, if you're reading this, it means the truth has come for you. I have known for months. About Ella. About the child. And I am not angry. I only wish you had told me. But there is something more dangerous than betrayal. It is the lie someone else is telling. Do not trust Dr. Mason. He knows what happened that night. Protect the child. And when the time is right, you'll understand why I stayed silent. The letter ended without a signature, but the last line chilled him. Forgive me, because what's coming will destroy everything you think you know. Dr. Mason? Lila repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. That's my uncle's name. Mr. Grant looked at her sharply. Your mother's brother? Yes, she said. He's the one who said my mother died of heart failure. But I never saw a body. The room felt colder. Mr. Grant stood abruptly. Lila, we need to find him. But why would he lie? Because Grace said he knew something about that night. And that night, he stopped, unable to finish. Lila waited. He took a deep breath. That night, Grace didn't die in her sleep like they said. I found her at the bottom of the stairs. Later that day, Lila searched the study while Mr. Grant sat in silence, staring at the letter. She opened a drawer filled with old receipts and hospital papers. At the bottom was a sealed envelope marked confidential. Patient file, Grace Harrison. She hesitated, then opened it. Inside were medical notes signed by Dr. Mason himself. But one page had been torn away. The remaining line read, Patient conscious, admits to confrontation. Mentions hidden photographs. Then it stopped. Photographs. Lila whispered. What photographs? Mr. Grant looked up, his face ashen. The ones she took the night before she died. The next morning, Lila remembered something strange about the family photo in the Lily room. She removed the frame from the wall, and behind the picture was a small pouch taped to the back. Inside, a roll of undeveloped film. They rushed to a nearby photography shop. The man behind the counter squinted. This is very old, but I can try. When they returned later that day, he handed them the photos carefully. The first few showed Grace smiling at home. Then came one that made Mr. Grant's blood run cold. It was a photo of Grace standing at the window, with Dr. Mason in the background, holding what looked like a syringe. And in the corner of the frame, half hidden by shadow, was a woman watching from the hallway. Lila gasped. That's my mother. They spread the photographs across the table. Mr. Grant whispered, Grace must have discovered something that night. Maybe Ella came to warn her. Maybe Dr. Mason. A knock interrupted him. They froze. It was Carla Mason, Lila's aunt. She looked different this time. Nervous, tired, carrying a folder in her hand. I shouldn't be here, she said quickly. But you deserve to know the truth. She opened the folder. Inside was a death certificate. But it wasn't Grace's. It was Ella's. And the date of death was the same night as Grace's accident. Carla's hands shook as she spoke. Ella never died that night, she said. At least not from heart failure. She went to Grace's house to confess everything, to tell her the truth about Lila's father. But something went wrong. My brother, Dr. Mason, was there. He tried to stop her. There was a fight. Grace got in the way. She fell. Lila covered her mouth, eyes wide. Carla continued. He called me, terrified. Said there'd been an accident. We forged the papers, buried an empty coffin. He told me to forget everything. But I can't anymore. Mr. Grant's voice was barely a whisper. Where is he now? Carla looked at him with haunted eyes. Gone. Disappeared years ago. But if you ever find him, he'll finish what he started. That night, as rain beat against the roof, Mr. Grant found one last unopened envelope among Grace's letters. On the back, in Grace's handwriting, were the words, For when the lilies bloom again. Inside was a single photo, Lila as a baby, wrapped in a blue blanket, sleeping in Grace's arms. Beneath it, a short message. If you are reading this, Grant, then I forgive you. But remember, love saves, lies destroy. Protect her. For me. He pressed the letter to his heart, tears finally breaking through years of silence. Spring arrived early that year. The lilies bloomed again, white and soft against the graveyard's green. Lila stood beside Grace's grave, the locket gleaming in the sunlight. "I know now," she whispered. "You didn't just bring me to him. You saved both of us." Behind her, Mr. Grant placed a small wooden cross beside the grave next to Grace's, Ella's name finally carved into it. For the first time in years, the air felt light. As they turned to leave, Lila looked back and smiled. "I think she can rest now." But as they walked toward the gate, a tall man in a dark coat stepped out from behind the trees. His face was older, sharper, but unmistakable. "Hello, Lila," he said softly. "You've grown." Mr. Grant froze. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Dr. Mason." The moment Mr. Grant saw him, old memories flashed like lightning. The shouting, the blood, Grace's fall. Lila's heart pounded. "You're my uncle?" Dr. Mason gave a sad smile. "You were so small when I last saw you. I wasn't sure you'd remember me." Mr. Grant stepped forward. "You shouldn't be here." "I came to make peace," Mason said quietly, "and to tell you what really happened." The wind picked up, carrying the scent of lilies across the graves. Dr. Mason's voice trembled. "Grace discovered that night that Lila wasn't yours, Grant. Ella wanted to confess, but Grace stopped her. She said she could handle the truth, but when Ella mentioned leaving town with Lila, everything fell apart." He paused, staring at his hands. "I tried to separate them. Grace tripped. I swear, I didn't mean for it to happen." Lila's breath caught. "So you killed her?" Tears filled his eyes. "I tried to save her, but she hit her head on the stairs. I panicked." Ella screamed and tried to call for help. His voice broke. "I gave her something to calm her down. Too much. She never woke up." The world went silent. No one spoke for a long time. The truth hung heavy, too painful to touch. Lila whispered, "You let me believe she died of a weak heart. You let me grow up without a mother." Mason looked at her, broken. "I thought I was protecting you. I told myself you deserved a normal life." Mr. Grant's voice was low and steady. "You didn't protect anyone. You buried the truth, and we all died a little because of it." Mason lowered his head. "I know. That's why I came back. To confess." The next morning, they went to the police. Dr. Mason walked in on his own. He gave his statement calmly, detailing every moment of that night. The fall, the panic, the forged papers, the guilt that had haunted him every day since. Lila sat in the waiting room, holding Grace's locket tightly in her palm. When Mason was taken away, he turned to her and said softly, "You're more like Grace than you know." She saw light in everyone, even in me. Then he was gone. Weeks passed. The house felt lighter now, like the ghosts had finally been set free. One morning, the mailman delivered a small envelope addressed to Lila Grant. Inside was a letter written in neat handwriting. "Masons, I don't ask for forgiveness, but I hope you'll find peace faster than I did. Your mother loved you more than anything. Grace wanted you to grow up kind, not bitter. Keep that promise for her. Tell Mr. Grant, thank you for raising the child I never deserved to meet." Lila folded the letter slowly, tears streaming down her face. Months later, Mr. Grant turned Grace's old garden into a public park. He named it the Lily Garden, in honor of the women who had loved and lost too much. On the opening day, Lila placed 2 bouquets on the memorial stone, one for Grace, one for Ella. She whispered, "You both gave me the kind of love that doesn't die. It just changes form." As the wind blew, a single lily petal lifted into the air and landed gently in her hand. She smiled. That night, she dreamt of the graveyard again. But this time, the sky was golden. The graves shimmered softly, and 2 figures stood beside each other, Grace and Ella, holding hands. They were smiling. Grace whispered, "You found the truth, my dear. Now live it." Ella added, "And don't be afraid to love again." When Lila woke, her pillow was damp with tears, but her heart felt strangely calm, like the storm inside her had finally passed. Years later, Lila sat by the same window where she had once found a mysterious note. She opened her journal and began to write. "Dear Grace and Ella, you both saved me in different ways. One taught me kindness, the other taught me strength. I used to think I was the poor girl who left flowers on a stranger's grave. But now I know, that stranger was never a stranger. She was my story, my blood, my beginning." She closed the journal and smiled. One afternoon, as she watered the lilies, a little girl tugged at her sleeve. "Why do you always bring flowers here?" the girl asked. Lila knelt down. Because sometimes, the people who leave us still listen. And flowers are the way we say we remember. The girl smiled. I'll bring some too. Lila watched her run off, her laughter echoing through the garden. And for the first time, she understood, healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about remembering gently. Years later, when the garden was full of lilies again, the townspeople placed a plaque near the gate. It read, "Dedicated to Lila Grant, the girl who brought life to forgotten graves and light to forgotten hearts." On the day she passed, a caretaker found a single white lily on her bed, beside an open book. Inside the book was a note, written long ago in a child's shaky handwriting. Even the poorest heart can give the richest gift. And beneath it, in her grown handwriting, she had added, "You were right, Grace. Love never dies. It just finds another soul to bloom in." The wind blew softly through the lilies that day, and for those who listened closely, it almost sounded like a woman laughing, free at last. After everything Lila and Ethan went through, the quiet sorrow of the grave, the secrets hidden in letters, the pain of loss, and the courage to show kindness even when the world seemed unfair, there is one truth that shines brighter than any fortune or wealth. True strength lies in the heart. Lila, a poor girl with nothing but compassion, showed that even the smallest acts of honesty and kindness can reach far beyond what we imagine. Ethan, a man of power and wealth, learned that no amount of money can heal a wounded heart or replace the moments we let slip away with those we love. The story reminds us that life is fragile, and our actions, however small, carry weight. A kind gesture, a moment of courage, or simply noticing someone who is hurting can change a life forever. Like Lila leaving flowers on a grave, our choices can bring hope, closure, and connection in ways we might never see immediately. So, what can we take from their journey? In a world that often measures success by wealth, status, or possessions, remember to measure your life by the love you give, the empathy you show, and the courage you carry in the smallest moments. The richest people aren't those with the most money. They are those with hearts willing to care, forgive, and act with compassion. If this story moved you, made you think, or reminded you of the power of kindness, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories that touch the heart, restore faith in humanity, and remind us all what truly matters.